Yeah, I'm Congresswoman Lucille Roybal Allard. I'm here with my co-chair of the Congressional Women's Working Group on Immigration Reform and other members of the caucus, and we are here to see firsthand what is happening to families and to immigrants who are coming here to our country. And one of the reasons that this is extremely important, because when I've gone back to my district, often I have heard from others that, no, the press is just exaggerating the cruelty to children and to parents. And we wanted to come here to see firsthand what is actually happening. And unfortunately, what I can tell you and what we have seen, that the stories are true. We heard from mothers who were torn away from their children, for children who were told that their parents had abandoned them and didn't want them anymore, parents who didn't know where their children were. And we also were very fortunate also to see that some children are in fact being unified with their parents. And we were able to talk to them and find out from them what their experience was. And unfortunately, in many cases, it was not a very positive experience. And now I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Congresswoman Jayapal from Washington State.
Thank you so much. We are really honored to be here with an incredible group of members of Congress. And we're here actually at the first place that immigrants coming in, that families coming in seeking asylum would come through. And through the day, we've been through the number of stops that individuals go through. And from what I heard over a month ago in a federal prison from people who had been transferred from the Texas border to that prison, we heard those same stories again today. Stories of mothers who were seeking asylum and were separated from their children without even having a chance to say goodbye to them. Today we saw some of those mothers, and it had been over 2 months since they had seen their children. Children who told their mothers that they had been told by government agents that their mothers had abandoned them. And also seeing the cages. That is what the United States government has been doing under President Trump's cruel and inhumane zero tolerance, zero humanity policy, is putting kids in cages. And today we saw that. We saw the cages where these children are being kept. And when I look at this, and as an immigrant myself to this country and now having the great honor of serving in the United States Congress, I have to just ask how this government could sanction child abuse, could sanction taking away children from parents when these parents are themselves the victims of terrible violence, of torture, of conditions in their own countries that I think any mother or father would want to leave from. So today we saw and we talked to these families who had been held in prison, who had been kept away from their children, and we also witnessed both their joy and also the double-edged sword of having been separated from their children for 2 months, not knowing where their children were, finally being able to be reunited, and the incredible ordeal that they went through. So we remain committed as a congressional delegation to doing everything we can to get an investigation into what has happened, to stop this zero tolerance, zero humanity policy, and to make sure we reunify our families. And with that, let me turn it over to Jan Schakowsky from Illinois.
Thank you. Well, here we are at the border, and we saw today right here some of the legitimate operations of the hardworking people at this border who stopped a load of weapons that were going to Mexico, maybe bought legally in the United States of America and being sent to fuel the drug war in Mexico, and some drugs that were coming across the border. But we also saw what Americans are gasping about, and that is that in the United States of America, we see government-sanctioned kidnapping, government-sanctioned child abuse, and we saw the parents and the children who have suffered so very much. We saw a grandmother who was told that even though she raised that child, who's now 7, from infancy, that she was going to be separated from this little grandchild. And that's because in America, we don't consider a family a grandparent, a sibling, uncles or aunts, and those children are considered now unaccompanied minors. So we have a lot of work to do to make a humane policy. We should begin with a full investigation. Someone has to be held accountable.
I'm Julia Brownlee from Southern California. It's been a very enlightening, informative, eye-opening day. We've had a long day and we have seen a lot. We started in a federal court where we saw mass persecutions of 80 plus people who had crossed the border. And then we spoke to many families who have been reunited, and to hear their stories is heartbreaking. And certainly, as you observe, fathers and their children and mothers and their children, you can see the angst and the fright of these children who are clinging on to their parents, not wanting to let go. It was heartbreaking in one sense and joyous in another to actually witness a few families reunified for the first time right in front of us, which was a tearful, I think, experience for all of us. So I just concur with what my colleagues have said. This zero tolerance policy is senseless, and certainly it tells us in Congress that what we need is comprehensive immigration reform and move forward so that all of these people who are seeking asylum in our country have a process that is human and easily accessible and treated properly. So I will pass the mic on to Sheila Jackson-Lee.
Thank you so very much.
Who everyone knows.
I'm delighted and sad at the same time, delighted to be here again in my state with so many good people who are trying to provide comfort to those who have suffered and have come across the border. I'm saddened to be here in the crisis that we're facing, but I am a member of the Women's Working Group on Immigration, and I salute my leaders who have brought us together, including Congressman Mark DeSarnier, and as well to have Congressman Vila, whose district we're in, to be supportive of the effort that we've made this entire day. My message simply is this, that this is a broken system that has been cracked into very small pieces by the Trump administration. And I certainly want to thank the hardworking people that are in the state of Texas and work on the border, but they have been given an impossible task. That is why 2-3 weeks ago, a month ago, there were people stopped on the border because there is no space for them to come. That is why children were snatched away from their families and not to be seen from mothers and fathers for months at a time, not to be able to have calls with their children, not to know whether they were well, and as well, not to have the children know the truth. Some told that their parents had abandoned them. And then to be in a courtroom where close to 100 people were given the opportunity to plead guilty in most instances. Mass deportation. That was not the way America ran her immigration system even a few years ago. And so we are calling on major investigations of the Trump administration, congressional investigations as to how these policies were even designed. And as I understand it, none of the people on the border who worked on the border were asked how this could be handled with children coming across the border. Finally, I want to say that I believe in a constitution that is based upon due process of law. We were in a courtroom today where the judge said that those individuals who are not citizens still had the rights of due process and the Constitution. That is being broken by the Trump administration, separating families and causing such a terrible situation. And my last point is to thank again these members and to say to them, thank you for allowing me to see family reunifications where none of us had a dry eye. You have to see it to understand the pain, and that's why we must investigate this and find a way to fix this broken immigration system.
I'm Congresswoman Terry Sewell from the great state of Alabama, and I'm honored to be here with my colleagues because I want my constituents from Alabama to who so many of whom fought in the civil rights movement, to know that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And today I saw an injustice system that this administration really has been perpetrating on the American people, because our taxpayer dollars are not being spent the way I know that we would want them to be spent. At the end of the day, our democratic values are founded on a principle of human rights, of civil rights, and it is not right to treat other human beings in such an inhumane way. To witness firsthand mothers and daughters and children and families in cages is not how I would think we would want to spend our taxpayer dollars. And so I'm honored to be here today, and my takeaway is that this crisis, this humanitarian crisis, was caused by this administration, and this administration should do something to fix it. But they're not going to be alone, because we will stand with them, because our immigration system is broken and we do need comprehensive immigration reform. And I know that it's important that we all do our part. And I think that to come and see firsthand the experience right here at the border has been an eye-opening experience for me, and one that I will not forget, and I will work hand in hand with my colleagues to try to fix. With that, I'd like to pass it on to Karen Bass from the state of California.
Hi, my name is Karen Bass. I'm a member of Congress from Los Angeles, California, and this was an incredibly sad experience today. This is a tragic time, a shameful period in our history, and President Trump will be known now for taking children away from parents. I am desperately concerned that many of the children that have been separated from their families might never find their way back home, especially if the parents have been deported. We have been told that families are not separated anymore. Everybody should know that that is a lie. All they have done is slightly change the policy. If it is a grandmother or an aunt or an uncle, that does not qualify as family in this administration's eyes. Some of the children are being sent around the country. If the parents are deported, how are they supposed to ever find their children again? I believe that there needs to be a massive outcry to demand that this administration change this policy, and that this administration take responsibility for the reunification of these families. We have been told that if a parent is deported and they do know where their child is, then they have to pay $1,500, $2,000 to get their child back. So not only is this administration kidnapping the children, they're also requiring that the parents pay a ransom. This is a shameful moment in our history. It is ironic that we stand in front of this sign that says, "Welcome to the United States of America." We all need to have an outcry and protest that this end immediately. Thank you.